retrospect. Well, let's see.
Yeah.
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us at our mobile iOS standard for Vietnam. We will discuss everything on Android 12 today. And with us today, we have Marcel, partner developer relation engineer at Google. We have Enrique, our Google dev expert in Android, and Phat from Lazada team here. So before we start, I would like to play a video with from our Android developer advocate Wen Liu. He will share on the news feature of Android 12 before we go deep into discussion and then open question to all of you who join our stream today. Okay, thank you. Let's watch the video now. Okay.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining with us today. My name is Wayne Liu, Tech Lead Manager for Android Developer Relations. Today, I'd like to introduce what's new.
Can you hear very well? Is it live stream?
Toan, I'm not sure if you're there, but I think can you hear Marcel?
For Google I/O on YouTube.
Sorry. I think we have issues with the sound.
So I stopped hearing around the second 10.
In this slide, we are applying the.
Can you hear it now?
Yeah, now we can hear.
Yeah, we can hear it now.
Okay, I'm sorry. I will replay the video. Sorry for the incident. Okay.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining with us today. My name is Wayne Liu, Tech Lead Manager for Android Developer Relations. Today, I'd like to introduce what's new in Android 12. Today, we'll cover three major topics in Android 12: system UI, privacy and security, and lastly, app startup and performance. Android 12 is a major release with more dynamic, modern, and polished UI that brings key changes to Android to make it feel faster and smoother. While the OS does most of the work, we need apps like yours to implement the new features and improve the ecosystem. Android 12 is the first step towards a new Material U, a new design that will enable users to customize and make the apps feel more personal. For more information, check the What's New in Material Design session for Google I/O on YouTube. In this slide, we are applying the Day-Night theme, which automatically fetches all the theme colors, like background, accent colors, primary colors, and so on. You can even get a full range of color palettes from the system resources. In Pixel devices, we'll go one step further, and these colors will be created based on the user's wallpaper using color extraction. Additionally, we've revamped widgets for Android 12 to increase adoption. We are adding more native support for interactive elements like checkboxes, switches, and radio buttons. Better support for tappable controls so users can engage with your app just from the home screen. On top of this, we are improving discoverability with a revamped widget picker that comes with a preview layout and description. In addition to the home screen, your widget will be appearing in more places in Android 12, starting with the Android on-device search, assistant on mobile, and also Android Auto. We are bringing Material U to your home screen with color themes. In addition to colors, Android 12 introduced system-level resources for you to control and automatically apply heading and control radius. In Android 12, we are deprecating the fully custom notifications. A standard notifications template is applied to provide a more consistent user experience. This covers the icon, the app name, and expansion collect states. You are strongly encouraged to update your app's target SDK level and verify that the notification layouts look correct. For apps targeting Android 12, we'll apply the new overscroll with a stretch-all effect for the new behavior. This replaces the glow behavior to give this a more natural scroll stop behavior. This may affect custom lists or behaviors, so make sure to update your target SDK level and verify the scrolling containers. A major focus for this year is privacy and security. Every year, we introduce new changes to improve user privacy with high security standards. In Android 12, we're adding transparency to microphone and camera access. Going forward, users will know every time an app accesses their microphone or camera. If this is unwanted, users can navigate to the app permissions page to revoke permissions. Developers should review the use of mic and camera and proactively remove any unnecessary access. In Android 12, users will have more control with mic and camera toggles. This changes the camera and microphone access for all applications. We've designed these toggles so that you do not need to do anything differently. Your app will continue to think that it's accessing the camera or microphone, but instead receive blank feeds when this toggle is enabled. These controls affect the apps, regardless of the target SDK level. Android 12 also allows users to control the level of precision in the location permissions dialog. For most cases, coarse access should be sufficient. However, if you do require fine location access, take note that users may only grant coarse access to your app. For more information, please follow the permissions best practice to adapt to this change. Additionally, for apps targeting Android 12, you can explicitly say that you require Bluetooth scanning, but you will not use this to infer the user's location. As best practice, we recommend you to use Companion Device Manager API. This will allow you to provide users with a more streamlined user experience. Lastly, you may have some apps that you haven't been using for months, but they are still consuming system resources. Android 12 expands the permission auto reset feature and puts these unused apps into hibernation. Effectively, this means that the system will revoke any granted permissions. The system will free up storage by clearing app cache. Any jobs and push messages will stop as if the user has force stopped your app. You can learn more about this in What's New in Android Privacy I/O video. In our last section, we'll talk about app startup. This is a major focus for this year. A major change is the introduction of splash screens to all applications. By default, the system will use your app's theme background and app icon to display a smooth animation during the code startup for your app. This new system will allow you to customize these parameters and provide animated app icons. This change is important if you are already providing a similar screen, since it could cause duplicate splash. It is automatically dismissed as soon as your app draws its first frame. Optionally, you can customize this splash screen by setting an animated vector drawable. You can also customize the disappearing animation of this splash screen. To learn more about the splash screen API, please check out the documentation and the sample code. Another way to launch your app is via notifications, but there's a common practice called notification trampolines. This creates bad user experience. Hence, we are introducing restrictions in order to improve the app startup. All applications that target Android 12 will now be unable to launch an activity inside a broadcast receiver or service that was started from a notification. Lastly, another area of improvement is the Foreground service. Users may be multitasking on their devices, such as listening to a podcast while ordering food. Foreground service was designed for long-running user-initiated tasks at a high priority. However, we found that almost half of all apps starting Foreground services are started from the background. Users are surprised by the unexpected and non-actionable foreground service notification and find it very distracting. Additionally, foreground services may take up valuable system resources, and the OS cannot effectively prioritize resources. Hence, in Android 12, we disallow foreground service launches from the background. This change will apply to apps that target Android 12 and above. That was a quick overview of what's new in Android 12. Firstly, under the system UI, we've covered the dynamic modern UI, widgets, deprecation of custom notifications, the new stretch over scroll. Secondly, under privacy and security, we've introduced new microphone and camera indicators and also toggles. You will now have better control over location and Bluetooth permissions. And also, unused apps will now be hibernated in order to save resources. Lastly, under App Startup, we've introduced the splash screen with launch animations. We've added restrictions on notification trampoline, and also disallow you to start foreground services from the background. Thank you for joining us today on What's New in Android 12. My name is Wayne Lu, and I wish you a wonderful day ahead. Thank you very much. Hope you have a nice day.
Well, thanks, Wayne, from the distance, and I guess we can start talking about a few of the impressions we have on Android 12. Folks, what's your favorite feature or the thing you're looking forward in this new release?
I think I can go first. So I think one of the most impressive for this release is we have a major release in terms of the system UI design. So I will be sharing my story. So 5 or 6 years ago, I have one of my very first devices that have the pre-installed KitKat version. And then I heard the news that we have a new version that is Lollipop, which is a big change in terms of the system UI design. I tried to install to that version, and when I have that one, the feeling is very unique. I mean, it's very unique opportunity for you to see the entire your device transform into the new one. I can say so. So I share the new with my friends. So until now we have like five or six more versions of the Android OS, right? So the change in the last few years has been less radical to be comparing to that moment. We don't have like biggest change in terms of the UI UX, but now actually that is a good sign in terms of the platform maturing. When Android have one of the biggest OS in the world, and they have like 3 billion of users, right? So having any change in terms of design will be impacting directly to the end user. So except for the Android 12. So I see in the Android 12, this is one of the biggest, for me personally, I think, for the design, especially when you see the news on the material, you can see that there is a new iteration of the material design that called Material U. I think the new will be, they will be more personalized. They will have a new updates that can have you to customize, that can have you to personalize the application. So it really changed the look and the feel for me to using the app. I just seeing some samples and a video, but the change is very impressive for me. I think that is one of the biggest UX change in the lives of the Android updates. So that will be my first impression in terms of the Android 12.
Yeah, don't forget the widgets as well. So finally we get a refresh on the widgets. That as well is a good news. And actually you can see the first signs of Material U on the widgets. So if you try the beta 2, you might start seeing like as well some widgets adapting the color, and you can already try by yourself with sample widgets. There is a really nice thing that is only available for pixels, but it adapts to the wallpaper background, the widget. So you can set up the background of your widget or the color accent to adapt to the wallpaper. So depending on where you place it, it will actually change the color. So the idea is that all the widgets then eventually adapt this. and you can have a full customized home screen based on your wallpaper, based on your colors that you define on your device. So that is really nice, and I think it's just like the starting. So it will take a few iterations, but it's really a nice feature, and it's easy to adapt that part. It's not too difficult to adapt your widget for that.
That's a good point, Marcel. Any user wants to try Android 12 besides an emulator, they need to actually have a Pixel or a Pixel device in order to join the beta program, right? You can't officially do it on any other brand.
So there are more brands that will accept the beta, but for the emulator, I think that must be a Pixel. I'm not 100% sure, but I think so, yes.
I think it has been similar to other versions, which, well, it's a good reason to buy the Pixel, right? Android. I think probably you can install the ROM if you flash the device on, Samsung or Huawei or similar.
Yeah, well, there are more OEMs getting into on board on trying like to get betas or like develop or the release candidates eventually. So I hope to see more OEMs getting faster on there. But yeah, I think so far, if you have a Pixel, is where you will get it faster. If I'm not wrong, though, you need a Pixel 3. I think Pixel 2, it's not supported yet.
Yeah, I think so too. Started on 3. And it's very nice with these widgets that they are backward compatibility with all the dynamic colors. It's always a bit frustrating when you are breaking previous pieces of code that you've been writing because the new version doesn't support them or has some breaking APIs. But in this case, since that is going to work with previous widgets, right? So they will keep running on Android 12.
Yeah, I mean, as always, there are some needs here and there that you need to take care of. But in general, the good thing is that you can use what is called the device default theme, and then then you can just use Android identifiers. So you would just use @Android attribute, and then you say color background. And then if the device is running on an older device, it will just use the device color background that most likely will be white. Or if it supports dark mode, then it will be like a black mode. But then from already on the last version on Android 11, you already can even change some of the theme colors of the device. So that should adapt. But then Android 12, it even goes further and it adapts to the wallpaper. And that gives a really nice effect to the widget. And hopefully like this will move onwards into applications as well with the new material U that was announced.
So the color extracted from the background will be automatically, right? And it will be applied for all the system level components, right? From what I can see, I see that the changing from the lock screen, from the quick settings, from the setting and all the relevant widgets. So can you share more about that? How they can extract the colors from the background? What would be the behind implementation for that?
So it's basically actually quite simple. You just use IDs, you use identifiers that identifies a full palette. So either you can just use the basic palette that will be like you use identifiers like color background or color accent or color text primary color, right? So this will automatically apply wherever the device theme is and the colors. But then on top of that, there will be some other identifiers that it's a full palette range. So it's like system color 0, and then it goes till system color 1000. I don't remember the name exactly, but you use this identifier, and basically what you know is the tone, right? When it's 0, it means that it's like white, and when it's 1000, it's like the dark. So all the range between, it will adapt based on the device theme. And the device theme is extracted from the wallpaper if you want. It's highly customizable. So and then on your application you can just use these identifiers, and it should adapt automatically. So basically, you know that if you have a color, let's say system color 800, if you want to put text on top, then you should use the system color 0. So you should always use opposites to make sure that the colors, they don't collide between each other, and then it should adapt. I'm excited to see like the first apps like getting into this and how it will change. I guess that it will be hard to sell into some applications where they still want to have some really strong branding on color. So I don't think it will be for everyone or all the apps, but definitely I think that might help users get their system like feeling more like their system.
Yeah,
that sounds very nice. Well, just as a reminder, if anybody's interested, you can essentially Google Android 12 features, and then you will have the full listing of all the features with some code samples and some screenshots.
Yeah,
I actually...
No, I was just going to say that the developer docs for Android 12, they have been doing a great job, the tech writers and all the teams, and they are really nice. So I definitely check them out, and I think they are doing quite a good job on exposing the new features and the changes.
Yeah, and also on the on material.io, they also have some blog posts about the new change, about how you can adaptation for the new change of the material. So I think that would be a very good blog if you want to see that one as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. How about you, Enrique? What do you like about the Android 12?
So I'm particularly excited about two features, which are maybe not the most relevant ones, but they have a reason. The first is the splash screen. And I'm excited about it because, I install Android 12 and essentially every app is broken. So if you open any app that has a splash screen, you see that if it's not prepared, you essentially take the icon drawable, the icon resource, you put it in the middle of the screen, background white or black, depending on your color setup. And yeah, so most of the apps are essentially broken. But that's fantastic because if for anybody that was working with a splash screen before, it was a lot of boilerplate code and a lot of manual code to prepare, present this screen, then read on the set preferences. If you've logged in, start this screen or start this other one, etc. And now the API facilitates the work quite a bit. So it's something very, very simple, but honestly, I've been doing that in so many apps in the last years, and it's something that adds some complexity as well. If at some point you need to add new screens, you need to keep in mind that this screen was there, prepare the navigation graph, or before when there was no navigation the fragmented stacks, and make sure that this thing loads and unloads, etc. And another one for a different reason is we have this, how is it called? This rendering or this blurring effect that can be applied directly to a view.
Over scroll, you mean? No, you mean
No, it's setting the rendering effect or the blur. You can essentially call any view, any class extending from view. And the function is called set render effect. You can add let me actually, I think I can share my screen and put it very fast here. So can you see my screen, folks? I think you can, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So this is fantastic because you essentially have to set the render effect, then you can create a blur effect, you can apply a few modes and radius X and radius S. And for me, that's fantastic because I had this library, Android Stack Blur, that I haven't updated in like 8 years, except, like updating from time to time, like the Gradle and everything, and was exactly doing the same thing using either the Android MDK, Java, or render script. And now I don't have to maintain this anymore. So I think when this gets official, I'll just commit here a huge deprecated or anything. But well, no, I know this takes a lot of work, and there are a lot of algorithms to make this faster, especially when views are moving, getting rendered, etc. And that was a lot of work on this app. So I was using an algorithm. I think if we came into the GNI blurC, yeah. Well, if you want to read the algorithm, is a bit complex. How it performs all the blurry of the images. It needs to be really fast. We're using multi-threading in some of the algorithms, and this is actually achieving it also pretty fast. And well, you can apply it directly at the view level. So this is super comfortable. You have any view? Is that an image? Is that a button? Is that anything? My library can only apply it. Can only apply that to images. So yeah, I know this is not a use case that happens to every developer all the time, but knowing the intricacies and the secrets of luring, it's fucking fantastic to have this, at the view level and natively supported.
It's quite expensive computation, so yeah, it's not a trivial thing, and I think it's not supported for all devices. So I think there's going to be like some limitations to the new API, but again, the limitations are there for some reason. So you don't want to apply this super expensive computation into certain devices where then you might have a nice blur, but then the application will go just like super slow and not working. But yeah, that's definitely a good change. Like I'm interested on the splash screen. You said that all the apps that you tried that they are broken. Like all of them, or like some specific ones?
Most of them, big time. I'll open even things like Twitter, which is a big app, and I was assuming that they would have time to our resources to prepare this, but I think essentially 99% of the apps are not supporting this. Telegram.
Yeah, it's a change that it's definitely really really nice, and I think it's going to help as well make the ecosystem more concise, where you would be switching between different applications, and you would have the proper behavior, and the splash screen will only be shown when it's really a cold start, rather than like some applications will always show the splash screen, and it will be confusing. But it requires some adaptation if you already had a splash screen. So this is mostly when it's like a more noticeable issue. But we work with the developers and partners to migrate. But given that the beta it's only used by developers so far, mostly, let's say, then I guess some of these companies, they still have not released the changes. But I would expect that by close to the official release, more and more companies will fix these things.
And it's funny, I think it's nice that there is finally this acknowledgement. So the splash screen had this long history of they are not recommended for Android apps because you should not use splash screens, but people keeps using them. And with the time we discovered that many apps need to do this previous load of data or preparing data to be served to the app, etc. So it's nice to see also from the Google side that, okay, we were not recommending this in the past, but things change, and users are strongly pushing into, hey, we need to have some previous data preparation before the app starts, and we get now an official way to support it, which is a nice indication that the ecosystem is alive and is not static and will move with the user needs.
Yes, I think the change comes as well on the need of we want to make things more smooth and more concise. So since most of the applications were already doing that, as you say, and everyone does their own way, then this sets a precedent to know how to do things and can perform a bit better when it's coming from the system level itself. Because when you implemented your own splash screen, you had to do the things really right, or you might get first a white screen and then you get your splash screen if you are not using styles and setting things properly. So these new splash screen as well, I think they will help feel more smooth. Especially, I don't know if you notice on the beta, when you open the app from the launcher, it starts from when the icon is. So the animations are much smoother. The same when if you have gesture navigation and then you just use the home screen, it kind of
nice.
grabs into the bubble. Yeah, it's really this how you call it, smooth interactions, or smooth, I know, really little details that sometimes are difficult to see, and maybe the detail itself, it's not much, but when you put all together, they feel the system much faster and smoother.
Yeah, and the behavior of the slot we will not always applying, right? So let's say it will be applied in case of the cold boot, right? When the app process is not running or the activity is not available. So in that case, when you click on the app, the splat ring will be taken into the effects. Otherwise, everything will be remain the same. And also, if I'm not wrong, there will be the launchers, the app icon launchers will be using at default at the center of the slot ring to be using at the image in the slot ring. So maybe that will be a good help for them to migrate for this Splat in Android 12.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So you mentioned about the overall effect, right? So for my experience, for my personal experience, I think the bouncing effect is very nice, very cool. When you reach to the top or the bottom limit of the screen, and then it get bouncing back. So I think the animation is nice, but for the stretch animation, I think it's quite. For me, I don't like it, but the bouncing is okay. But for the stretch, yeah. Can you share more about the motivation about the?
Yeah, I mean the motivation was clear, right? Is change these ripple, how is it called, the glow effect that it was introduced, I think, on Android 4. I think on Android 4, right? I don't remember exactly, but yeah, really long time ago. And the motivation was again to make these feel the system more smooth and that everything kind of move all together and with these animations and these little details. I think that the effect was quite noticeable at the developer preview. We got a lot of feedback then, and on beta the effect improved. The stretch during the developer preview was maybe even too much. It felt like way too much stretch. It might broke content and so on. So thanks for the feedback on the community. Actually, in beta already changed, and now it's way more subtle. But I agree that this is everyone feels different, right? Some people really like it, some people doesn't like it. I'm okay. I think it just adapts to my eyes eventually, but it's something to keep iterating. I think that we will have to see. And the good thing is that there is an API that you can disable this effect, because I agree that in certain situations maybe you don't want to have this stretching. That is kind of automatic as the moment you have some sort of a scrollable content. So there is an API either programmatically or on the XML side that you can remove the overscroll or change the effect. This was especially useful for certain apps that actually will break with this new effect because of the way that they calculate the
size of the list and the screen. Yeah.
Yes, and the pull to refresh and so on. Some apps will have their own custom logic and custom things, and that could eventually break things depending on how this stretch was going. So the developer during developer preview, that was a lot of feedback we got on that area, and then they decide to add these APIs where you can actually disable this or modify the effect. Nevertheless, again, you want to try to be the same as the ecosystem. So unless you have really a good use case that you say, okay, I need to disable, I would still encourage you to not do it. But there are some parts where, maybe it makes sense.
And if we want to apply for that will be applied for own kind of the list view, the list of object in the screen, right? Like list view, recycle view, adapt.
And anything scrollable, anything. So even a text view can be scrollable if you set it to be scrollable, right? So anything is scrollable, this effect is applied. And then at the same time there you can disable that effect with some attributes.
What do you folks think? There is also this thing which maybe also a minor thing, but it's interesting. And now we have 3 different Bluetooth permissions instead of requesting the location permission. And I find that quite granular because otherwise the location permission was this big packet where, why are we requesting this when we want to access the Bluetooth? Sometimes we just want to scan devices or pair with them. And now it's very clear in the case you need to use just Bluetooth what you're requesting, especially for those people or cultures concerned about privacy, where, if you request for location, you've been living in Germany, right, Marcel? So all Germans start writing, why are they asking for location? They want to sell my data, blah, 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 1 star. And now it's easier because you will get 1 star because you're using Bluetooth instead of location.
Yes, that actually permissions is an area that I've been working a lot last couple of years. So on Android 11, we introduced already some changes on between foreground and background location. So on Android 10, the background location permission was introduced, and then on Android 11, there was this new flow that in order to request background location, you have to it's separate from the foreground location permission. And now on Android 12, we are as well enforcing that if you ask for Android for a find location permission, you get it as well separate on the permission request, and user can actually select approximate. And then in addition to that, as well as what Enrique was saying, this change on the Bluetooth for scanning, that this was, I think, quite a big ask for many developers. So I really like these changes as well. I find it that it gives much more control and transparency to the user. And now it's only apps they need to do the right thing and only ask what they need instead of just like ask for the biggest permission. But it does require some changes on the permission flow, and I struggle sometimes, and especially in the region, I find that there are a lot of apps they just ask permission directly. You start the application, they ask you for the permission.
Yeah.
And I kind of always feel like, okay, I have not even know what you want the permission for. Show me what. Let me use the app, and then I decide maybe if I want to give my location or if I want to give scan the Bluetooth or whatever it is. So this is something that all the apps I think that needs to do a bit better. But at the same time, permissions is hard on the flow, like how to put the flow of the request and permission. So yeah, I think that there is like some working on how to improve this on the permission area. So hopefully we get better flows and better guidance on this area.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And users need to actually start targeting Android 12 in order to enable those permissions, right? They can't do that while they're targeting Android 11.
That's correct. Yes. It's a way to know when the app is separate. Like, so when it supports that. Otherwise, then some apps that they don't target 31, they would still break because it's a different permission, it's a different flow that they need to request for.
I
like
remember
Bluetooth
with Android.
Yeah,
sorry, Phat, you go.
Yeah. Okay. So I like the ideas of the Jensen and having a dedicated permission for Bluetooth as well. So it's very clear for me when to use which permission. So I understand the case. So previously, when you want to request for the location for the user's location, you need to access for many things. Probably you want to have the Bluetooth to scan for the nearby device or maybe Wi-Fi device nearby you, so you can get the location, or you can get the last known location with the the location service node or the GPS service. So right now, for example, in the case I just want to access for the Bluetooth only, I want to scan on the device nearby myself. So I can have a way to define that permission to have the precise message to the user, and also that will be not headache for me every time I want to get access to the permission of Bluetooth directly. So I think that would be the minor chance that what really happen for the users. But in this case, I have one question, because in Android 12, we have the indicators next to the proximity, right? So it will indicate for the location and also camera setting, right? When we also on the quick setting, we have the button to enable and disable for that. So in order to migrate the app to targeting for the 12, there will be many use case and flow that we need to handle, right? So let's say in the case we are requesting for the location, but somehow people don't want to have that one to be accepted. They turn it off at the system level, and then on the app like revoke the permission, and then when it go back to the app, we need to detect for that change, and we need to handle for that case. So I think that would be one use case for people to migrate to the target 12.
Yep, absolutely, and I think it just as well much more easy for the user to understand, right? Because I think for a normal user like understanding that you're requesting the location permission in order to find the Bluetooth device that is nearby. It's not really clear, and it's not clear why. And even that you try to explain it, it might not. Especially because it's as well, okay, you can infer location from the Bluetooth device, because you can know then the MAC of the Bluetooth, and then there are like, some databases where if that Bluetooth is static, then you can know where it is, so you can infer location. But it's really not like trivial for most of users. So having this split, it's definitely much better.
Yeah, agree. Yeah. What do you say, Enrique?
Yeah, well, I was actually, when I graduated, I did it with a thesis on Bluetooth position, and I was thinking that now in Android has changed quite a bit. Like before, we were using the like essentially requesting either by GS antenna or GPS. Now we have fuse location, etc. So it's quite evolving. I'm not sure the current state of the Bluetooth positioning. As Marcel said, there are like huge databases from Google, probably its own ones or other companies, where they essentially connect Bluetooth MAC addresses or addresses from Bluetooth with geolocations, and they also like made some fine tuning based on the Bluetooth signaling is more or less stronger. There is like some calculation to be a little bit more concrete. But yeah, that generally goes in combination with GPS. If you're in the middle of the Sahara Desert, you will not be able to use, obviously, Bluetooth. And it's actually very good for insights, since, when you're inside a building, the GPS connection might not be coming, or in a garage or underground. And that's when the Bluetooth connections or also the antennas from telephony can serve. I was going a bit through the changes, and I remember when you were updating, or when you were setting the Android 11 as the target SDK, apps were breaking a little bit, right? We needed to make a few changes. I remember Phat, if you remember, we had this issue also when we updated, and we needed to wait a little bit on that. I haven't tried setting target SDK as 12, but can we expect also some major code breaks? Do we need to allocate time to do this migration?
Yeah, so sorry, that was a question for me or was for Phat?
I think that's a question for you.
Okay. Yeah, I think so. Last year, Yeah, I think last year was introduced the app compatibility framework that is directly on the developer options of your device. So that allows you to actually already start testing things without needing to change the target SDK. Because the moment you change the target SDK, not only you get all the new features enabled, all the changes enabled, but as well there are some compilation changes. So it might, for example, right now, to put an example, on Android 12, the moment you target SDK 31, you have to ask permissioned the access find permission and the access course permission all together. If you want to request for access find, so the precise location, you need to as well put course. So the moment that you try to target SDK 31 and compile on SDK 31, so Android 12, your code maybe not, it's going to complain, right? Lint is going to say, hey, you need to request both permissions. So then the app compatibility framework, what allows you is that your app, without doing any change in the code, you can enable those flags that automatically puts your application into this kind of allow list where the feature is enabled for your application. So without any code change, you can already test how your application would behave with that enabled and see if it breaks, right? So if it breaks, you already know, okay, I need to put some work there. So I think that framework and that system is really great, especially because you can allow, most of the companies would have QA teams. So you can even ask your QA team to say, okay, go and test all the feature flags and all the features and try what it breaks and what it's not. And then you can then scheduled to do these changes eventually when you want to target SDK. Because especially on big code bases, and I can imagine that on your case it's really big, it's probably really difficult to find all the places where things might break or where you have to fix things. So it might require more amount of time. But with this app compatibility framework, you can test things faster.
That's very nice because we have this, I mean, for applications that have several models, you don't always have ownership over all of them, and things don't scale very well if you need to ensure individually this targeting for all the models. Anyway, people should have time to fix this, right? So I'm not going to say that too fast. This will be public around September, right? That's normally the thing with the Android operational system. So yeah, that means we probably still have 2-3 months to get this ready.
Yeah, I think that in APAC, generally, there are less users getting the latest version right away, just because the market, as you said, like normally pixels are the first ones to get the market. So pixels are more famous in other markets like in Europe or US. But now more and more OEMs are jumping fast into the new versions of Android. So I would expect that the market share on Android 12, it's on the release, it's bigger than other years. So I think that kind of the 10 here was like, okay, let's wait even 1 year, right, to do any of these changes. It's not like the market share is going to be so small, so that might not be worth it. But I think that is changing. So it's definitely worth to start looking into these changes and at least check, that your application is not breaking or it's not having a bad user experience.
Yeah. So I think it is really important because one of the policies of the Google Play Store is that in this August, if I'm not right, and if not wrong, we will need to migrate the app to Target SDK 29, which is a version Android 10, right? So in this year, we also have the Android 12 to be released. So it's better to have, in your case, having the QA team to run the regression test for all the potential break of the app, and then we can find out and also have the list of checklists of all the migration that we need to do.
Yeah. Normally, don't write this in stone, but normally, like, it's always kind of like 1 year that you have time to for the next target. So now when the Android version 12 comes in, then you at least should target the one before, and so on, and then you have. But you probably don't want to be like always like like at the end of the tail, like just catching up. So it's important to try these changes before they become a real fire, and then you have to stop a feature. And as well, because some of the changes might as well break new features that you are developing. So you don't want to develop a new feature that it's going to be broken in few months or a year, right? Or that maybe you're not able to use certain things that you are planning for this feature. So that is why it's quite important to be updated. But it's difficult. I mean, Android evolves really fast, and there's even for me, it's like super difficult to catch up with everything, what's new and so on. And sometimes I discover new things that I did not know. And I work specifically on that.
In our industry is one of the few where you take six months sabbatical or 1 year sabbatical, and when you're back, you have to restart learning, like what is people using now? This library now that I was using 1 year ago is now completely deprecated, and everybody hates it.
Especially with Compose coming up, there's going to be like a big change, and there's going to be a lot of libraries appearing and a lot of things appearing, and that will be interesting to see.
Absolutely. Well, Compose is going stable now, right? In July, it's not really an Android 12 topic, but I think now that we're discussing would be a good reminder that if you're interested in checking out Compose, the API will not, has been frozen since a couple of months, right? And the version we have right now will be the first stable compose. So it's probably the right moment to jump and start checking it out.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And one thing that was announced during I/O, though, as well, back to the 112 on widgets, we announced that actually we are working as well on a way to make to use Compose to build widgets. So this is something that it's going to be as well nice to see, because if you have worked with widgets and remote views, it's it's tricky. It's tricky API, because basically you are building kind of a view, but you are just passing it to a different process, and then the process is like building and running it for you, but you don't have access to any anything there. So all the code is always like you need pending intents, and then you need to call update. It's quite difficult to manage and to create. So we announced it on Google I/O that we are working on a way to create widgets with Compose. It's still really early stages, but we hope that by towards the end of the year, we have already some initial versions to do, and that will allow to build widgets much faster and backwards compatible as well, just with the same way you would build the UI. So that's definitely an interesting thing.
And in the widgets, we have some of the new component will be added, right? So we have checkbox, simple view to be added to widgets. So it could be helpful for you guys to create a simple application that support for relevant use case for that, right?
Yeah. So for example, checkbox switches and so on is added on 112, and then for before 112 on widgets, you cannot use the view itself, but you can create your own by just changing the drawable, right? So then with Compose, the idea would be that you don't even have to do all that. You just would create a composable that contains a checkbox, and then the Compose itself underneath will create the remote view for you. You don't have to worry about the backwards compatibility and all this. So this is again really early stages, but it's more or less the idea behind. It will be a limit. It will not be like in Compose that you can use like a lot of different type of views or composables and so on. So it's still going to be limit the things that you can use for widgets, but that's the idea behind it.
Yeah.
Just as a reminder, folks, checking the presentation, we have around 10 minutes. So if you have any question, feel free to post it on any of the channels that you're checking. Otherwise, after the talk, you can easily reach Marcel and Phat and myself on Twitter if you want to consult any Android topic.
Yep. What else is interesting on the new version? I like as well the new, back to the privacy. It's a topic that I like. I like the camera and microphone toggles as well, and indicators. This is quite a nice feature. It should not affect apps because for the indicators, basically it will appear the moment an application accesses the camera or the microphone. And then it will just be indicated there. So what you have to check on your application is that you are clearly showing the user using the camera or the microphone, and that they are not surprised to see the indicator. For example, use case to especially take attention is when you are pre-warming the camera. Some applications would open the camera without showing the preview. For example, they show first a chat or show something else, but the camera is open already. So the moment that the user presses the camera, it shows directly the image already. So this is a technique that some applications use, but what happens is that the user will not see any preview of the camera and will see the indicator appearing. So that will be definitely surprising for the user. So it's important that if you have use cases like that, you want to maybe consider your implementation, or at least let the user know somehow that the camera is working on your app, so they are not surprised.
This icon, this miniature appearing is automatic, right? It's handled by the Android operational system, so we don't need to force it or do any sort of manual indication.
And it will be Yeah, and it will be overlay on the screen, right? Like you have the application and overlay on that.
For every, so it appears for a few seconds and then disappears, and it becomes like a little dot. So it's not a permanent thing. It only appears the first access of your application to the camera. But if you would release the camera and then request the camera again, it will appear again. But it is really just like indication, and then it goes into a small dot.
Okay.
Yeah. That is a good point as well, because one of the things we saw is that this overlaying can collide with some UI components when you're using full screen mode. So on normal applications, it will not be any problem because it's appearing on the status bar. So normally you don't have anything there. But if your application is using full screen, then it might collide with something there. So there is going to be like a method added onto the Windows inset API, where you can query the bounding box. Yeah, like you know, like similar. I don't know if you have used an insets, like in order to know where the status bar and the navigation bar is, and then adapt your UI. So it's the same API that you are able to query that, and then you avoid putting anything there. It's just going to be a 5 seconds overlap or 3 seconds. I don't know how long is the animation, but you probably just want to avoid to put anything there.
Yeah, that's good to know. And one more thing in the app detail, in the setting, right? We can also see the dashboard of the, we can analyze how many times that the application accessing for the location, right? Something like this app is accessing like 24 hours, and by that we can have some insight of the usings of the location in the app.
Yes, that's correct. That's the new like permission kind of like timeline and dashboard that will record all the access, and this is important because that is, so normally we focus on kind of 3 main principles. It's like transparency, and this is like a main one, right? Like you see what apps are accessing to you, you see the indicators appearing, so there is a transparency to the user. So that is an important principle for us. And then the other one would be control, and this is bringing the control to the user, and this is why there was added these camera microphone toggles that basically the user can decide to completely disable the camera or the microphone for the full device. So this is not app by app. App by app would be the permission wise, but like when you click the toggle, then the camera is disabled for
all the apps.
For all the apps. Yeah,
that's really nice. So we don't need this like people have on some webcams, right? The sticker in front of the camera.
Yeah,
that's correct. Or like the phone is listening to me. Well, then just toggle off, and then you are sure that it's not listening to you.
Yeah, correctly.
Yeah, it's not, those toggles, for example, are not supposed to be something to be using like permanently, like that you would be like, it's only in cases maybe when you want to have this extra privacy security and you want to make sure that, there is definitely nothing using the camera, nothing using the microphone, you have the option. I don't see myself like using it a lot, because during my day-to-day, I use the camera a lot. So then it means that every time I will be having to unlock the camera, you get a call, then you need the microphone as well. So it's I mean, it's just a toggle, but for me it will be too inconvenient. But it's good to have it there.
Okay, folks, I think we're approaching the end of the event. If any of the attendees have any question, and we know the answer, we will be super happy to support you. Otherwise, if we get no questions, I think, as mentioned, that Marcel and Phat, we are all very easily findable on Twitter and social media. So you can just go to Twitter, type our names, and you'll find people like with our same name or maybe ourselves. So we have here one question. Chin Min Duk. What do you guys think about Getsk? I'll have to Google that because I'm not really aware of what Getsk means. Flutter package manager, right? GetX. I personally have no experience with it. I'm not sure if you have used it previously.
No, not me.
No, I did a bit of Flutter, but I'm not too expert on Flutter, so not my area of expertise. No.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, similar here. I haven't done too much Flutter, unless Flutter package management. So, folks, if you have any question, that's the moment. Well, otherwise, I'm not sure if Toan is coming or he's still away from keyboard. We were actually expecting Toan Tran to come as well. Toan is actually a Kotlin developer expert here in Vietnam, but he had some personal issues and was not sure if he would make it. But Toan, if you read this or hear this, we miss you. And anyway, thanks Phat and Marcel and for your time. Toan, Kevin, thank you like always for organizing and taking care of all the media.
Yep, thanks a lot for the chat. And yeah, as Enrique said, feel free to reach in Twitter. I'm happy always to answer questions about Android.
Yeah, thanks a lot for inviting me. Yeah, for any questions, just reach out to us and we will try to answer for that.
All right.
Thanks, folks, and let's keep in touch.
Bye, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, stay safe.